everyone here, Israelis and Palestinians, and I think, of course, everyone connected to Israeli and Jewish and Palestinian and Muslim community, connected to humanity. I think we're all in a space of deep, of pain, of shock, of fear, and it's not an easy time also to speak in joint voices, in a time when the conflict is really threatening us all with just a very dire us and them, which is where conflicts live. So I just want to share, we're just open with just a moment of prayer and a moment of praying for all the people and who are living here and going through this and where this is going to take us. And just we'll stop for just for a second, just to every person in their own space, their own words, their own share, just to have that moment. The late Rabbi Menachem Fruman, was a big inspiration for me in stepping into this work. He used to often say that the one thing we know about peace is that it's inherently beyond our control. We're trying to make peace between ourselves and another. There's things that are inherently out of our control, and that humility. For all the last 10 years of work at Roots and beyond, for some of the people, like Khaled has been involved in peace, Israeli Palestinian peace, for over 20 years. There's a phrase in Yiddish with people like to say that man plans and God laughs. But I think here it's man plans and God cries, and we cry with him. The Roots, we entered into the night of October 7th, October 6th, with a lot of things on the docket. The New Year, and the Jewish New Year was a New Year starting, end of the summer, getting back to work. We see Mala here, new staff people. A lot of big plans for where we hoped this year would be a place for taking the next step in facing the conflict in our communities and moving the next humble steps forward. And since then, it's been just living a real nightmare. And in terms of thinking about what we wanted to do today, Khaled and I, we want to do a couple different things. We don't want to get into a big geopolitical description of what's going on and why and where things are going to go and projecting. We really do want to stay focused on where Roots is, how our network of people, and as people on this call, as we were here a little bit before, over this call, people who have found Roots, supported Roots, come to visit, heard our speakers, become a part of this message and this work. So we want to get to what we're doing and what we're facing right now. I think Khaled and I are both going to kind of switch off sharing what we see both of our communities facing, feeling right now, and it's emotional, so it'll be emotional. Khaled, maybe I passed it. That was my intro. Khaled, actually, I have to find you on the screen here. But,
Khaled, unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here. I'm Khaled. These hard days. First of all, my name is Khaled Awwad. I'm a Palestinian. I live in the West Bank. I born for a refugee Palestinian Muslim family. And we grown as a refugee family. And we know what is it to be a refugee, exactly. And in 1987, we as a family participated in the first Intifada for the freedom of the Palestinian people. And we have been happy that in 1993, we got the point that we both sides decide that we are going to sign a peace agreement. So we as a family, we as part of the Palestinian leadership of the Intifada, support that agreement, and we believe that this agreement, the peace agreement, will change our life, will give us to achieve our dreams, to have our independent Palestinian state. So we believe on that, we support that. And we have been waiting patiently for the leader to bring us the peace. Maybe this is the wrong thing that we do, that we believe that the peace can be achieved by a piece of paper that's signed between two leaders or two teams. Peace is a way of thinking and looking to the other one, a way of how you speak, how you deal, how you seeing the other one. It's not only signing an agreement. In 2000, my first brother Yusuf had been shooting by the Israel army. My brother had been killed. And at that point, we find ourselves in a place that we should choose what should be done. Are we going to continue believe in peace? Or peace doesn't work and we should fight each other? And from our experience, from our history, and from analyzing the situation around us, we find that the only way is the way of peace. Just we should take it to our hands. We should support it. We should build it by ourselves. So we start 2001. We have been the partner to establish what we call it nowadays, the Bereaved Family Forum, Israel-Palestinian Bereaved Family Forum for Peace and Reconciliation. And I remember the first challenge have been that the people, when they hear about this forum, the first thing that they attack me, how you can put the blood of the perpetrator and the criminal in the same level, how you can equal between the Palestinian blood and the Israel blood on your initiative and your form. I said they are equal, they have the same color. We're all human beings. If we are not looking to it as an equal, we cannot achieve peace. Those who look that there's difference between the blood of both of us, they are not a peaceful people. They don't believe in peace. They don't understand what's the meaning of peace. So it's equal. And I'm going to put it equal. I'm going to look to the life of both of us as an equal life. Without this, we are not a real peacemaker. And I fight a lot of people. And I remember we succeed. We succeed to bring a lot of bereaved family to believe in peace. I remember that one of the most important things that I've seen when I invite 7 Palestinian bereaved family to visit the Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, to see by their eyes what's happened in the Holocaust. And I've been watching the people when they go inside the museum of the Holocaust. I've seen Palestinian women crying when they see the pictures there, the shoes, the things of those who have been killed in the Holocaust. And when I've seen this, I became very optimistic. I said, when we start feel about the life of each other on this way, by this empathy, this is the first step to achieve peace in our region. I continue. In 2014, we start a new initiative that we call it Roots. Me, Shaul, Rav Hanan, Iron, Fruman family. And again, the people fight me. And they said, how it can be? How you allow yourself to meet with settlers, with people who live in the West Bank? And my answer have been, they all belong to the same nation, the Jewish Israel nation. They all equal in my eyes. The important question in my eyes, why they feel that they need to live here? What is it means for them, the West
Yeah,
Bank?
Robbie, sorry, this is a, no, I'm watching this is a.
What? My answer have been, if we want to have peace, we should ask every main group in our post society what they want, what kind of peace, what's important for them when they are talking about peace, what they want, what those religious settlers who live in the West Bank, what they want, why they're sick to live there, what Hamas want when they talk about peace, what Fatah want, what the farmers, what every main group in our post society want, what the meaning of peace, what's the definition of peace in their eyes. And this brings me back to study the whole history since Abraham, the father of all of us, to understand what's the relationship between us and the Holy Book and the Holy Land. What's the relationship between the Jewish people and the Holy Land? What does it mean for Muslim people, the Holy Land, the Al-Aqsa? What does it mean for the Jewish people, the Holy Land? The first temple, the holy Arona Kodesh, the holy, I don't know how you call it in English.
The Holy Ark.
The Holy Ark. What is it? And in our initiative, we said that if we want to have a real peace, we should understand the first thing is the problem of the Palestinian in front of Israel, that we as Palestinians, we don't trust Israel. We don't trust Israel. We don't trust their promise. It's not only because of the peace agreement. It's because of stories in our history that mention that those people, this nation, have no word. They promise and they will not respect their promise. On the other side, I've been looking to the Jewish Israel people. What's their problem with us? They don't trust us. And they have a lot of fear. They don't trust anyone in this world because of what happened to them. Imagine 6 million people have been killed, not for any reason, just because they are Jew. They have the whole right not to trust anyone in this world except themselves. How we can give them approval to trust us, how we can fight this fear, not the people, the inside of the people, their fear, how we can give them a feeling that we are not going to fight, or our main goal is not to kill them. We want to be neighbor with them. We want to be partner with them on this Holy Land. What have been done by us, by the Palestinian, is the opposite. We all the time call to kill the people, the Jewish people, to fight, not to approve their belong to this land. All what we say in our media, when a suicide bomber happened in Tel Aviv, when we celebrate the death of people in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, this is increase the fear. inside every Jewish Israel person. And in the 7th of October, I know a lot of people, they didn't understand what's happened. Hamas went out of Gaza. They killed 1,104,000 people, Jewish people. Okay, Israel react and start by killing 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 now. This is the story. This is not the story. This is not the real story. Again, I'm going back to what's happened on the 7th of October. Exactly what we are talking about, the fear. What's happened in the 7th of October. Again, bring back the picture, the belief of that another Holocaust can be happened. We can be killed again. We can be killed again. That doesn't mean I agree or I'm supporting the Israel reaction, because I believe that this reaction is not the right reaction. Yes, Israel have the right to defend itself, but not like this. We still, our humanity tested on the hard time, not on the good time. I face it in my organization, in between us as a partner, Palestinian and Israel in roots. I've seen the people, we are human beings. What's happened around us affect us emotionally. And here, we should not forget that we also have a mind. We should not give up our humanity. Whatever happened around us, this is, in my eye, this is hard test for our humanity. How we can, within this hard pictures, hard time, how we can behave as a human being. The same moment that we protect our life, we protect, not revenge, we protect. I'm sorry that the things since the 7th of October going like this. It's difficult for us as peacemaker, for me, for Shaul, for Hanan, for Noor, for all of us, but we continue. We continue by allowing those who affected hardly by what's happened to take a space, to go a little back, to relax, to try to recharge their power, their motivation, and came back. And how we can stand and lead our people, our groups, to continue believe with our values that says violence is not our way. We will not believe in violence, whatever happened. We, Palestinian and Israel, belong to this land. We call it Palestinian, they call it Israel. Both names are accepted by me and by roots and respected. We both should understand and accept the belong of each other to this land. The Palestinian people, I'm a Palestinian, we born here, we grown here, and we will continue live here until we die. And the Jewish people, in my eyes, they also belong to this land. There's no other place that I know in the history called the state of Israel or the state of the Jewish people. We are cousins, the sons of Ishmael and the sons of Yitzchak. We both belong to this land, and every Palestinian should accept this. The question that many ask me, can we live together my answer have been all the time, we already living together, but we are living together by hating each other, but not trust each other. We are painful and hurt each other. We are damaged the life and the happiness of each other day and night. Question should be how we can continue living together on this holy land by respecting each other, start building a trust by our behavior, our saying. You trust me when I represent in your eyes, in your noise, speech that respect you and respect your life. How we
Thank you,
can
Khaled.
continue living together by giving a space for the life and the happiness of both of us. How we can give for our coming generation a different kind of life. Instead of hatred, kind of partnership, neighborhood, respect, because none of us is going anywhere. This is our land, both. This is our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaled. And Khaled, you did, just as always, amazing job of expressing what drives this vision of the work and the hope and the prayer at Roots. And I want to reflect a little bit where people are right now, because the vision, and I really want to be very, very, very brutally honest. We don't know where we are right now. We don't know what tomorrow brings. I can say that the last month, I think life doesn't happen in periods of weeks or periods of 3 days. It happens in periods of maybe 8-hour periods. I look at my wife at the end of the day and we saw wow, we made it through a day with whatever that happened, a night, a day and a night. And listening to people around us, where I think I'll talk about on the Israeli side of roots activists, people in a very deep space of trauma, and on a physical level. People in my town go to sleep every night, terrified that there's, just like happening on the Gaza border, there's infiltration, that it's going to happen here. And that's not just here in Judea Samaria, in the West Bank. I hear friends of mine in the center of the country, in Hod Sharon, just north of Tel Aviv, are living that sense of fear of what could be tomorrow. So I'm going to speak here from the Israeli side, where I think a lot of the Israeli activists in Roots are feeling, and that vision of respect and trust, and the deep, deep, deep wound that's there. Roots began in 2013, 2014, and I just thinking about this recently, that if you would have asked me in 2001, 2002, in the midst of the second Intifada, about creating a project like Roots, I would have said, you're crazy. And there's no way. The livid sense of fear and on guard that we were living in, it didn't seem possible. And when things calmed down as the years went on, the questions that are allowed to open, the question of what's going on the other side, the question about the other side comes up, and maybe you have a meeting with somebody. And I think Roots took place in the Jewish books, is that there's a phrase that says it's right, a time for peace, a time for war. A month ago, it turns out we were in a time of peace. A month ago in a week. We didn't realize what we were able to do in that moment, and we should have done so much more. Because now we feel, again, I think people living in a time of war means a sense, and I'm saying every single house in my town is a son enlisted, a brother enlisted, this person's missing. We just got to notice an hour ago about a funeral that's going to be tomorrow. So the physical reality of this conflict right now is incredibly wounded, damaged, hurt, scared, angered. And I want to say that I think the real emotion behind us all is a sense of fight or flight. And I think when we fall into fight or flight, we have to, one of the human responses is to recognize a threat. And everything becomes either a threat or a safe, threat or safe. And that's how we end into these very black or white, us and them visions of the conflict, and the space for Roots' work, which is really about allowing a meeting between these two sides, is very challenging. And it's been felt. It's been really felt within the organization. I want to say a little bit more about the emotional side right now, fight or flight. Something else that's been happening, I'll say on the Israeli side, what happened in the south, as we started finding, we had Simchat Torah as the holiday. Right in the morning, we got news something's going on. There were booms heard. Friends are being called out of synagogue and running down south. People enlisting. Nobody had any sense. I don't think any of us were prepared to find out what we've been hearing the stories of what happened since then. I had no fathom. I mean, I have a friend, a neighbor of mine, he's a counselor, he's a psychologist, and he's counseling people who are working in the body identification. And I've mostly been trying to protect myself from the hard images and stories. But a lot of people I hear in my town who are involved with Roots have been saying, Shaul, I've lost my faith in humanity. What was done there, what happened, the nature of the attacks is something that it's damaging my own thought and the humanity of the people in the town next to us. And the fear that what happened down there could happen here is alive and percolating for everyone. In a meeting a few weeks ago, we had Noah and I were talking in a meeting we had, and Noah pointed out that Rabbi Fruman, my rabbi, met with Hamas leaders, and he was incredibly attacked for that. People thought it was outrageous to meet with Hamas leadership. He did this in the late 90s into the 2000s, and Rabbi Fruman says he went to try to see if the Hamas leadership would stop sending suicide bombers, would adhere to what he believes of Islam of not attacking civilians, if there's some way of having a religious conversation with them. And over and over again, Rabbi Fruman was dismayed that there wasn't the willingness to stop. There wasn't the willingness. But still, we had there's this hope that many people held that, wow, Hamas came to power in Gaza. Maybe they, from the face of power, it's not being in opposition, their responsibility for their citizens. And we fell into this conception of maybe there's a way forward. And in many ways, Israelis feel a sense of just we were completely fooled. We completely let our guard down in many ways. We thought Hamas moderating, we thought this. And I think that similar to what happened in the second Intifada after Oslo, when we, the sense of you've signed peace, you're looking for peace, and all of a sudden you get the opposite. I think that's something that both societies in this conflict face all the time. That, like Khaled mentioned, there's a sense in the Palestinians that you can't trust the word of a Jew. The Jews are always, so this mistrust, of course, has been awakened in the most horrendous way, and in a way that I don't remember it like this before. So Roots in our WhatsApp groups, as people start interacting and sharing their side, you realize that it became clear that the pain each side is feeling for our own people is so overwhelming. Can I make space to the other side's pain right now? Do I even have the emotional when it's so close? I mean, there are families, people going to funeral after funeral. And as the stories started coming out slowly and the accounts, really just a deep state of being in mourning. So trying to guide Roots through this time, obviously every Roots program has been put on hold. Nobody's meeting. We can even talk about on the physical level. On the first days, the army was saying, "Everybody, don't drive unless you have to be on the roads." Palestinian villages in all across the West Bank are still largely on closure in order to prevent future attacks, and the army's trying to maintain quiet here. And so the meeting in the Zoom space or talking on the WhatsApp, which aren't always the easiest place to talk, but also the emotion was just so passionate. Each side needing to defend itself and share its position, what they're going through to the other side. And then, of course, the reality, the other side's also feeling immense pain. Speaking as Israeli, I can tell you my story, but Palestinians are looking at images from Gaza and the bombing and the people being killed. And each side is filled with stories of pain on their own side. And one of the realities of this conflict is we're living largely in our own different medias. And anyway, I think it's a very natural thing. The pain of your own family hurts more, those personal connections. So I'm trying to guide us to allow that space, to allow people to mourn, to be within their own people. Last week we did a Zoom conversation for Israeli and Palestinian activists, and I think we went through it okay, but it was hard. People said hard things. Peace activists said hard things about what they're feeling, what they think about the other side. So we're really trying to steer, and I think there's a danger. I think it's been very much a time of risk management, of recognizing if we just let people go at it and share what they're feeling, wow, even the trust that's here, we're going to lose. And I know I have Partners for Peace in Roots, but I think at this time it's a time we have to let people maybe not force the dialogue. It's a time to let it be. There's going to be a lot of work to pick up and to rethink about it, and also as these days of war go on, where are we going to end up? There might be tremendous opportunities. There's going to be tremendous setbacks for sure, but maybe there's opportunities, and how are we going to be real to recognize them? So I'll just say, since to close my segment, like where Israeli roots activists are feeling right now, the thing I've been telling people is don't. I see the question. No, it does not mean, for me, there's no, absolutely, for me, that Hamas cannot stay in place. There's no way that we can move forward with the Hamas military capabilities and their leadership in place anymore. That has to be done at the end of this. And that's a very hard price that we're both paying right now. But I'm waiting for the great solution that Hamas put down their weapons and agrees that this is the end, but I don't see that happening. So that's my personal opinion there. But what can we do? At the end of the day, I'm not forming Israeli policy. Khaled's not forming Palestinian policy. So our call to our activism has been to let's take responsibility amongst ourselves, amongst our families, amongst our communities. What can we do in our region? I want to pass back after Khaled. We'll share from the Palestinian side, right, how things are feeling right now. We'll talk about some things that Roots has been doing in this time. But in terms of dialogue programs within Roots right now, we've just been telling people, give a call to somebody that you participate in a program with, see what's going on with them. You don't talk about what's going on, don't talk about the conflict, but see, are they okay? Is there medicines on the shelves? Do they need something? That personal, maintaining those personal connections, which is much of what the worker route starts with, is I think how we need to maintain connections right now. I will go to questions at the end, but I want to pass on to Khaled to share also. לספר מה עובר לפעילים הפלסטינים בזמן האחרון.
We're passing a time of no rest, day and night. We're following what's happening in Gaza, everywhere, in Tel Aviv, and everywhere. And we've seen the hard pictures. We've seen the kids, the women, innocent people killed here and there. We've seen the people suffer every day. We've seen the people immigrate from their houses around Gaza and inside Gaza. We've seen thousands and thousands of people suffer as a result of what's going on in our holy country. I mean it when I say holy country. In a holy country, we should not behave like this. Yes, I know. Every side looking to see the support of the world. From one side, they are looking to the Palestinian people. We are happy to hear that we became hero. We became like, and in Israel also to hear people supporting Israel, and this is not what we need. I'm not only thinking about what's happening now. I'm thinking about the day after this. How is the life will continue? What will happen after that between both of us? This is, in my eyes, the main question that we should think about. Yes, it's hard for every Palestinian, also those, a peacemaker, peace Palestinian maker. And we face with a lot of discussion, hard discussion, the people emotionally, some of them cry, some of them think that there's no hope for peace, that what we are doing will not bring anything. And the thing is going to be worse and worse. And our position as a leader in our organization, how to support those people, how to stand with them, not to lose the hope. In my eyes, the hope is an important thing in our life. Sorry. It's very difficult everywhere in the Palestinian side. It's very difficult in the West Bank. For security reasons, I know the Israel army also cut the whole villages and cities in the West Bank. We all, most of our time, living in our houses. 95% of the Palestinian people in the West Bank, they are not working. There's no work. Many families suffer from this situation. Some of the family, they cannot buy a bread. We are going in between the people. We try to help everywhere with our small ability. It's not easy, but for me, it's important that we will pass this hard time in order to be ready to continue to correct all the damage that happened already on these days, to go back, to lead, building a trust, to lead process of reconciliation between the two people of us. I want to mention also one of the side of what's happened now is explained as a religious issues, Islam, Judaism, Christians. And some of the people ask if it's really a religious war. At the beginning, maybe I thought, as other people, it may be start as a religious war. But when I've seen thousands of people, Christian and Jewish, demonstrate everywhere in this world, in the West, for stopping this war, I said, no, it's not a religious war, because we are standing with each other, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian. But here, there's another question. Question of Hamas. What's Hamas? What did they want? Why did they do what they do? Yes, the peace process is stuck. Is it a reason to do or to react in the way that Hamas react in the 7th of November? No, no. I'm calling everyone in Hamas. Hamas, the people of Hamas, maybe they are Palestinian, but the ideology of Hamas is not a Palestinian ideology. It's more than that. In my eyes, it's the Muslim brother ideology that started 7 years ago. And it proved itself that it doesn't work everywhere in this world, especially in the Arab and the Muslim countries. It doesn't work, and it will not work. I'm saying this to everyone in Hamas. It will not work, because the real Islam is a modern religion. Islam is an open religion. Yes, I know that our inherited idea that came to us, it's explained the Islam in a wrong way, in a different way. Let me mention that one of the things in the Islam, God talk about the difference between the villages and cities. God promised that he will not leave, in the Holy Quran I'm talking, in the Holy Quran, God promised that he will not let any village without destroyed or punish it. And my question to my Lord, to my God, why? Why you are going against the village? And the answer is, what's the difference between city and village? Agriculture village, people who all work in farm, a sport village, Olympic village, people who deal in sport. The village is the place where we want it to be one color, one opinion. We don't accept the one who is different from us. God says the place where we are not accepting each other, different religion, different opinion, the believer and the non-believer. If we cannot live all together, it's a village. And God say, this is not what I want. I'm supporting the city, not the village, in your life as a human being. Because your goodness, your happiness came from a city, not from a village. I'm not talking about a city like I'm talking about the opinion, the place where we accept each other, the different from me, and respect each other is the city. In the Holy Quran, everywhere when God mentioned the good, he mentioned that the good came from the city. We're trying, some of us trying, to make their countries, their life, the world, to a village. This is against God. And I think those who are talking about the Islamic Empire, they are trying to make a village. In the Holy Quran, God gave an answer to those who asked, what's the destiny? A Goral destiny, yes. What's the destiny of the Jewish people, the Christian people, all the people in the world, the Muslim people also? And God gave a clear answer, not one time, twice in the Holy Quran. He said, if you ask me about the destiny of those who believe in Muhammad, and the Jewish people, and the Christian people, and the believer, and the non-believer, those who believe in one God, and the judgment day, and the good do, which means in some way the 10 testimonies, asarta divrot,
The 10 Commandments, good deeds.
the 10 commandments. Those who do these 3 conditions, they don't have to be afraid. They will have good in the coming world. They will have good, and I will protect and save them. This is a clear answer that mentions how the relationship between all of us, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, believer, unbeliever, how the relationship between us. And God says, since Muhammad, he stopped giving the authority to any human leader. Yes, before, God gave the authority. God put David as a king, Solomon as a king, Shaul. Yes, he said that he gave the authority. But since Muhammad until now, God says, I will not give an authority to any human being. You as a human being, you will choose your leader. I'm not going to be in the middle. God says in a clear way in the Holy Quran, La ikraha fid din. There is no the kind of forcing anyone to do anything.
Coercion.
Yeah. No one have the right to make anyone believe or unbelieve in God. No one have the right to push anyone to behave like this or like this until he keep the safety of the other people, the space of the other people. No one have. And the human authority cannot be work without the power. Country without police, without army cannot be considered a country. Because when the court judge anyone, you need the police, the power to do the decision of the judge. And God says very clear, This power is not exist in the religion, which means no one can take his authority from the religion or from God or in the name of God. So this will prove to me that the ideology of Hamas or the Muslim Brother or Daesh or the Bin Laden, all these, they are going against the Islam, against the main idea of God in Islam. For sure. Not only this. One of the main things that happen in the Islam that God says, the last prophet from God to the human being is Muhammad. We as a Muslim believe on this. And I ask myself, why? Why God you stop sending prophets from the Shamayim? And the answer, and I will finish with this, the answer in my eyes that I think that God start trusting us as a human being. God start seeing that we can take responsibility about our life, how to make this world better. And I can see everywhere in this world nowadays, those who fight for the human values, those who fight for saving the animals, the forest, the nature, the atmosphere, those who fight for the poor people, for the innocent people, those who fight for in front of any dictator, they all in a level of prophet. They all the human prophets. And we have a lot nowadays from every nation, everywhere in this world. We have hundreds of prophets that they try to lead this world to be better for everyone, not for themselves only, for everyone. They're thinking about the people in Africa, in Asia, in everywhere in this world, in the United States, in Japan, in China, in everywhere. They're thinking and they're trying to help everywhere, wherever they can. For those people, I gave a lot of respect and I believe on them. And I believe that those people are the human prophets for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaled. Nice one, Harriet. There, not prophets to non-prophets. I like that. I want to go into a little bit about in what we've been doing in Roots. Like Khaled mentioned, talking about this, the closures, the face of the conflict here, and like as it's happened before, Roots is responsible in our area, in our networks. We're going to try to take responsibility and do what we can to keep the violence from spreading here. I can share a couple of things that I've been involved in a lot on the Israeli side. About a year ago, there's an attack on a group of Palestinians and Israeli peace activists in our area, and from that, it happened right pretty close to one of the communities where one of the Israeli activists lives, and we started first a WhatsApp group and started a weekly protest calling for an end to civilian violence, and that WhatsApp group's become a very active and important part of some of the work we've been doing here. So as the conflict, and one of the things that happened is there's been a lot of everybody's on edge, everybody's afraid, and in the Israeli communities, there's people are armed and ready for an attack. And in some of the more extremist areas in this, like in southern Hebron Hills, southern parts of the Jordan Valley, and in the northern West Bank and the Shomron, there's been a real growth in Israeli extremist attacks on Palestinians. So one of the things we've been trying to do is, in general, I think before we get to those specific cases, the time of war brings out all the anger, all the aggression, and so within our own communities, what can we do to create a counter to that, to channel that, to make sure it doesn't go over the edge? So here in our town, where I live in Toccoa, we had meetings last Thursday night with a group of us in the town saying, wait a second, there's some people inciting in the town, there's some people taking independent action. How are we stopping this? How are we talking to local leadership to talk about it? Working with the army to stop it. We've been several of our activists went to go meet with one of the main rabbi, one of the main spiritual rabbi leaders in the religious Zionist community, who's very close to the extremist, kind of to the more extremist rabbis. Asked him to make a clear statement that attacks on civilians is absolutely against, out of the game. To get other extremist rabbis to also talk about the damage that's going to cause to Israel, even to the army. We've been going out and march, spraying over graffiti when there's graffiti calling for revenge, spraying over the graffiti and replacing it. On Friday morning, Hadassah Fruman, one of our main activists, had a meeting with a top person in the Israeli army who's in charge of the West Bank, to make sure that to keep on passing on the message that they're involved, that they're watching what's going on, and that they're deploying troops to the places where they need to hold back the Israeli extremists. It's become a real thing. We've been activists in southern Hebron, who's been very close to the Palestinian communities there, and there's horrendous things going on there. And how the Roots was able to work is there's another Roots member who's in the army right now, and she got me in touch with an officer. I can't say much more. That's an officer who's in a high position and is also furious at what's going on the civilian attacks. And we set up a system whereby I'm in touch with a group of Palestinian activists or Palestinian residents in southern Hebron, and if they see anything happening, people coming to throw rocks, what's going on, and people coming with jeeps into their town, they notify me, they give me the place, and then we turn it over to the army to go in and deploy people, and it's starting to work. About 2 nights ago, we managed work. The police got there and they dispersed people. But that kind of work within our towns about trying to, I think I want to go back and we're talking about the symptoms, the core. I think a lot of people here feel the army failed to protect us. The attack that Hamas was able to do left us feeling that our army's not protecting us. And when people feel unprotected is when extremists go out and act and they gain support. I'm showing some very much on the ground in our community, bringing the army to tell the young people here about, we are protecting you, are being protected. Your job is not to go out and gain protection. Your job is to keep learning, to keep volunteering, to keep doing things within your community to support the families. But that's been something that's on for several Israeli activists has been something a lot of what we've been involved in the last 3 weeks. The relief work, and many people here have already donated in support of this campaign about providing relief, and we're providing relief in 2 ways. We're providing to like Khaled mentioned, tremendous amounts of Palestinian families are without work, without ability to go to work since this started. So trying to provide a little bit of a financial support and medicines or foodstuffs to get to families who need them. On the Israeli side, we have about 150 families from the south that were evacuated that are staying here in our Gush Etzion area. I've been working with a coordinator who's running a lot of the relief work for them. We're going to provide some psychology, some trauma work some activities for especially the teenagers. We've kind of been trying to identify what's not being taken care of by other support and other donations. And one of the needs seems to be for both bring in a teen coordinator and work with a lot of the teens right here. I think the younger kids can fit into existing programs here, though the parents are getting their help, but the teenagers definitely need some attention. We've also been trying to support just Israeli activists and Roots who've also Israeli activists who have lost their ability to make a living in this time, and to give some stipends to some of the families who are really with us. And I think it means a lot for them to get for that as a joint organization to support people on both sides who believe in peace, who want to keep working for peace, and to see that they're getting something. I suppose I think there's been something so powerful in just the simple act of an Israeli calling and reaching out to a Palestinian activist, and vice versa. Ma was on the call, and I think those simple actions on simple is what's going to hold us together here. I see a lot of the questions are there about the more systemic things, national policies, and obviously there's a world of things to conjecture and talk about that. I'm going to try not to go into that, but I think, there's like I said, I'm going to trust them to kind of bring up the questions from the chat, because I find it's too hard to do talking and checking the chat at the same time. But that's a bit of where we're at right now, and I think Khaled would say להוסיף משהו או נעבור לשאלות?
Before the question, now I've seen more than 200 people listening, And I have a personal message that I think on it day and night. Yes, I know what's happened in the 7th of October is very difficult, very hard. But I remember when I've been young, when we as Palestinians talk between each other about the Israel state, the Israel army, the Israel law, I've been saying, look to them. In front of their soldiers and their officer, we can argue, we can scream, and they accept that. When we go to their court, in most of the cases, they stand on their justice and their law. Also with us, although we are enemy, but they respect their law and their values. What I have seen the last days, that I've seen a lot of Israel Jewish people, they gave up their values, their human values. Let me tell all of you that the power, the strengthening, and the continue of the countries is based more on its values than on its army. If we gave up our values, we will be destroyed from inside more than any outside enemy. Don't let to what's happened in the 7th of November to win you, to lead you to give up your values, your human values, your democracy values. Nowadays, I know as a Palestinian, I cannot speak to any Israel soldier in the street. I cannot open my mouth. No one can. I know, I hear a lot of voices. Kill them, finish them. We should not. I hope that you will not give up the values that you based your country on, because it's the main and the most important thing that lead you to this succeed. If you give up, that's the end in my eyes. Okay, sorry, maybe some is not or seeing what I'm saying is stupid, but this is what I believe.
Shaul Khaled, can we ask people to use the raise your hand function? I see that there's Andre and Benjamin have raised their hands. So why don't we first call on Andre to unmute himself, and then after that, Benjamin, if others want to raise their hands, then you can wait online to speak, but make the question short and make it a question, not a statement. Okay, Andre, unmute you're unmuted. Very good.
Yes, shalom, salam, peace.
So,
I do have a statement. I'll try and be brief, but with adversity comes opportunity. And the violence on October 7th was horrible. The attacks on Gaza are horrible. And now the whole world has been calling for a ceasefire. It's the same as saying no violence. And there is the power, nonviolence. A plan for a global movement of nonviolence is prepared, and it's one step away from beginning. And the objective is to save lives. So promoting nonviolence will not be easy, though, and it will be risky, and people will still die. But thousands of times less lives will be lost. The problem is, it's almost impossible to change anything right now because people's emotions are at a peak and people's hearts have been hardened. Therefore, special tactics are prepared to announce the movement and start and sustain it when the time is right. So when the violence subsides, an opportunity to unite the people of the world is here, and we must be ready. It needs leadership and the best representatives of nonviolence possible. And there is a template. Arab and Jewish women have been marching for almost 10 years. Women wage peace. This is the example that must be taken to the highest level. It doesn't exclude men, but the movement needs leaders. Who's going to be the first to rise up and unite and promote nonviolence? We need the people in every country to participate. First, reach out to women, and then invite the men. We need something different and special, and we cannot continue with business as usual. So, because I know the time is short, I'm supposed to take a small amount of time, but if you'd like, I can continue a little bit further. And I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you, Andre. Yeah, I think we need to make space. If people also want to, if people are able to write their questions also, I just said, no, we have to make, there's a lot of people on the call. I think we have 200 people plus. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the rest in the chat. Peace and love.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with you also.
Benjamin.
Hi. So I have some questions. Can I ask now? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions, and whichever ones could be addressed, I'd like to know. I'd like to know maybe some clarification from the ground what the relationship between Ram and Mansour Abbas has with the Muslim Brotherhood and how that plays out in the Palestinian society, especially. And in the conception from Israeli society, which I'm part of. I live in Israel, but I don't fully understand myself. A second question that is important for me is whether, as an Israeli, something that I kind of stand separate from many other people is that I have a real vision and desire for peace, but I have a hard way of seeing that with the calls to ceasefire. And I think that there are people on the Israeli side, maybe they're not the standard, who actually hold both of these opinions together. From the Palestinian side, is there any understanding of that? And what are the main ways to talk about that, where somebody might say, I don't want a ceasefire because I want peace, and I'm concerned that a ceasefire will actually be a long-term detriment to peace. Is there a way to talk about that at all? Or are there like hard opinions, hard facts here that can be discussed that can clarify this to any direction? Those are my two questions.
Thanks, Benjamin. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I feel the same way. I feel like a ceasefire right now would be detrimental to peace. As hard as that is, I think we've reached that place, and I think, like you said, a lot of people in Israel feel that way. In the news, a lot of the kibbutzim, the people from the kibbutzim in the south, which were very pro-peace people, also have come to that conclusion. I think that's something a lot of people in the Israeli society feel, that we feel unheard by the rest of the world. It's all the more so from the Palestinian side. What do you mean? How can you still call for peace when the price of not having a ceasefire, of course, means destruction in Gaza? But I think for many of us, we feel we've confronted with a level of hate and unwillingness to come to any terms with us that's left us no option. And then we're left with a very deep moral question. Somebody wrote in the chat earlier, what is the casualty count that becomes too much? I don't know. There's rules of war, but there's beyond that. There's just, I want to say on a root, so there's an emotional, like that's it's such an intensely hard place we've come to. It's a sad place. It's a tragic place. At the same time, I think many of us in Israel feel we don't see another choice at this point, and I've yet to kind of hear, like, maybe you're asking what is the options? What can we talk about other than that?
I'm also curious about what the Palestinians who actually live in the West Bank we are in touch with. Can they hear such a thing, or does it sound so like ludicrous? Or if they hear it, what is their response to it? I mean, this question more for Khaled. Like, I can ask it in Hebrew. Should I ask it in Hebrew maybe? Or
yeah. תשאל.
אז אני שואל, אני בתור ישראלי, שאני יהודי, גר בישראל, אוהב שלום ורודף שלום ורוצה חזון שלום עם מדינה פלסטינאית, ומצד שני, אומנם אני לא איש צבא, ואני לא פוליטיקאי, אני לא מבין בתמונה הגדולה, אבל זה כן נראה לי שהפסקת אש יכול דווקא לפגוע בשלום. כלומר, כשאני חושב על ההפסקת אש, זה גורם לי לחשוב שאולי דווקא זה מה שיכול למנוע בטווח ארוך. ואני יודע שזאת גישה שהיא נשמעת הזויה, גם לי נשמעת הזויה, אבל אני חושב שהרבה ישראלים מרגישים ככה, לא כולם, וגם מאלה שבאמת רוצים שלום, ורוצים לראות מדינה פלסטינאית. בשבילך אישית ובשביל האנשים מסביבך, יש, מה התגובה לזה? מבינים, אבל מבינים גם את הטעות. יש כאלה שמסכימים עם זה, אף אחד לא מסכים עם זה, וזה נשמע כאילו כמו רשע. מה התגובה לזה?
Listen, I think your question says if we are not continue to fight Hamas and finish Hamas, then there is no peace here. Let me tell you that I mentioned that Hamas is not only people. The people, they are innocent people, and they convince them under the name of occupation and the Palestinian suffering and whatever is it. But the ideology of Hamas is much bigger than in Palestine. So this problem cannot be solved by any external side. Israel cannot finish this, cannot give the opposite. What happened by Israel is empower them, strengthen them. This problem is an internal problem in my eyes. We, as Palestinian people, we should deal with this. We should stop this, not Israel. The way that Israel behave is make us weak and give more power to Hamas. And I know that in Gaza, if you analyze the situation in Gaza, before the 7th of October, the situation of Hamas have been very bad. The one who support Hamas, I think, I don't know if you accept this or not. I think Israel empower Hamas more than anyone else. The Israeli
Yes, I
leader,
think it's terrible.
especially your prime minister and his ideas, and he don't want to deal with any peace solution, and Hamas the same. So there is a joint interest between both of them, which lead us to this catastrophe, to this
He's laughing.
what's happening nowadays. So the problem of Hamas is an internal Palestinian problem. It's also an Islamic problem in the high level. But now for Gaza, for when this war is end, I think the people who've seen you now will ask them why. What's happened? What's the result of your action? More than 6 or 7,000 Palestinian kids have been killed. Those who lose their kids. Women's houses have been destroyed. The first guilty one is Hamas, before Israel. Hamas, in my eyes, they started. They caused all this damage. And then the turn of Israel came, and the reaction of Israel. And so, in my eyes, Hamas and Israel, they're both guilty, but the first guilty one is Hamas, and then Israel. The people will ask these questions, and they want to hear an answer. And I know that there is no answer. They will not get any convinced answer, not from Hamas, not from anyone. If the Palestinian people, let's all of us look to the West Bank. What's happened in Gaza is very difficult. Do you think the reaction of the West Bank is in the level of what's going on in Gaza? No, because the people in the West Bank, they are more, their life have more values. They think more, and they want to change their life to be better. Most of them. Yes, we have here and there problems. But still, most of the people in Gaza and in the West Bank, especially in the West Bank, and this is not the first exam for the people of the West Bank. Before that happened, we remember. And Israel thought that the reaction of the West Bank for what's happening in Gaza, I think in 2000, is going to be catastrophe, and nothing happened. The reaction of the West Bank have been very quiet. And nowadays, I think it's very quiet. It's not that level. We hear every day and night calling for the people to go out, to start fighting. They're blaming Mahmoud Abbas, and they ask him, gave an order to fight. No, this is not what we want. This is not what the people in the West Bank want. This is not what the Palestinian leadership and our President Mahmoud Abbas. Yes, I'm not agree with all what he is doing, but part of what he is doing, I respect. I respect that he have this patience and he stand behind his values and and what he is saying, that I'm not going to support any violence. And he's not supporting. He approved that.
I want to go to Stefan and Yael. I think is there with the hand. And what Khaled just said is it's one of the positive, the hopefully positive things that come out is that if the West Bank doesn't explode, there's a tremendously important message Israeli society can choose to see or not about people's decisions about choosing not to go with an all-out war, but they're choosing that people's having a life and a better life is a way forward. Stefan and Yael. Stefan, yeah.
Yes, good evening. Erev Tov.
Erev Tov.
I try in English, but maybe I will pass a little bit to Hebrew. My first language is Hebrew. I'm Israeli, and I'm in France. You talked about all the emotions that we have around us all those days. I find it very difficult those days to communicate also with my Israeli and Jewish family and friends, and also with Muslim friends around here. It likes like I find many people who are just looking one side, and I'm very sad to feel that I would like so much us to be able to hold few sides, that not even two, then so many sides of it. But I see that אני מצנזרת את עצמי. There are many things that I'm not saying to different people to whom I'm talking. And I was wondering, what to do? And how do you do when you are talking with people who are just holding one side? Is there something that we can share to open up to different ways, different things together today, or is it too hurting? I would really like to hear you about it, because
important question for these times.
I think again, I will say we are a human being. It's emotionally what's happened affect all of us, and our ability to be patient or to continue in our way as before, it's different from person to another. So in the way that I deal with this, that I'm saying that they all speaking, no one listening these days. They're all busy with what they are saying and how to explain and how to express their emotional feeling about what they've seen day and night, and no one ready to listen. So in my eyes, we should give although they behave like this, but they still, to consider in my eyes, they are a good people. They are good people, and they will return back. Give them this space. Don't push them, don't force them. Let them take a step back, just to recharge themselves, just to
process, digest.
Yeah, their hard emotional feeling, and they will be back. I'm sure they will be back. This is how I deal with this.
I also said this quickly. In roots, that's what we've been saying too. Like it's not the time to force people to dialogue, to criticize. People need, but if we emotionally support people, we ask, how are you doing, and how are you dealing with that? It's frightening right now. Do you feel safe? Being there on that level maintains a connection, and please God, in a month, in 2 months, when things quiet down, it's also then we'll know that there's those emotions that we're speaking now. But I think all these roots are saying that so much of what holds the conflict in place is the emotion and the trauma. We're gonna have to deal with that still. But yeah.
And also, did you finish? Sorry. I will say to every one of us, we should not judge the people nowadays. Yes, maybe their behavior these days is we should remember, and for a discussion later, but not to judge them nowadays.
I see Jesse there. Jesse Kleinman.
Oh, hello, everybody. Shalom and salam.
Salam.
I guess the problem for me has been I kind of support, I'm kind of on the fence between supporting the kind of war that Biden talks about with humanitarian pauses, etc., and the kind of war that and the ceasefire. But I'm also concerned about the fact that I kind of think that the right-wing Israeli government deliberately left people in the South unprotected this may be just another conspiracy theory, but after seeing the behavior of Trump towards parts of the country that didn't support him.
No, I think that does go into the conspiracy world. I mean, the deployments of soldiers is not even on Bibi. I've heard people put those things up, and at first there was a lot of people. There must be some kind of Israeli collusion because the attack was so total. Our army really blew it. I mean, and I want to say Hamas was horrifically smart in planning this attack, but I can't hear that they left the South open because of their political views. There's no way. I mean, that's obviously personal opinion, but I think that falls too far into the world of conspiracy kind of thoughts. I mean, the politicians' heads are going to roll for this. There's no closing accounts on that.
Okay, so I guess the problem is that they did take so many people who are basically on the left, including, I remember somebody else spoke about a women's movement. Well, they've got Vivian Silver, who kind of was leading a women's movement, helping to lead a women's movement in Israel. So how can we do?
She's a wonderful woman, yeah. I mean, the truth is there's a lot of alerts of attacks in the West Bank in the weeks leading up to the attack. But I mean, that's probably what I'm going to deploy out here. But John, do you want John Vogel?
Yes, hi. Thank you very much. Shalom and salam. I'm calling from the States.
Hello.
I have a question about the current status of the right to assemble and give feedback to the Bibi administration, which I understand is not allowed, but I don't understand the details and how it's impacting this work and what you hope for in that regard.
I think right now, I said maybe Khaled, did you understand?
לא הבנתי את השאלה, לא.
Maybe say one more time,
So just to understand, I believe that there's no right of protest or limited rights to protest, to give feedback on what people feel like should be appropriate in this war. And I'm wondering how that's playing out, how it's playing out for your work, for the conversation that needs to happen here, and what you think the future will be in the regard of people being able to assemble and protest.
I mean, on one level right now, the civil command is not letting any gatherings of more than 50 people in a place unless there's a bomb shelter to run to. All over the country, depending where you are, there's that level of restrictions in place. If you're far enough away from the rocket, I don't think they put restrictions on. There's been big protests outside of Bibi's house. There protest last night in Tel Aviv. There was big protest. Where we are, the chance to get, and we are in generally been saying people not to travel unless you have a real need to travel. And the Palestinian, it's starting to loosen up now a little bit. Now the Palestinian towns and area CMB have been blocked off from going on the main roads. this stuff will change in soon. I mean, this stuff will. This is part of kind of the trying to not see another front open in the conflict. There's big questions that is us. You know, like there's 130,000 Palestinian workers who haven't gone to work in a month, or even more. That's, you know, I think I'll say from the Israeli security perspective, at some point that becomes more of a liability than holding on security. How do they make those questions? The fear of those people, but in a month, in 2 months, the sense is life. Please God, will be going to some form of what life, some form of normal and ability to run activities and things like that. I don't think that's ended. But at the time of the war, in terms of the fighting right now, from all different levels, the need to keep people safe and not let things escalate is part of what's going on.
I just lost my place in the queue for a second
Is that
time.
Harriet? Harriet? Yeah, Harriet. I did see your hand. John, is that answer? Is that answer? I mean, those restrictions. Yes. I don't think we're going to be. I mean, yes, Harriet.
Thank you, Shaul. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I really appreciate your organization, what you've been doing, and the conversation about what's going on in this moment, which is different from what it has been. And I just want to ask a question related to prior to October 7th. I went to Israel, Palestine for my first time in May with the Center for Jewish Nonviolence. And it was an incredibly eye-opening experience in many ways. I was there for Jerusalem Flag Day, where I watched I was told they were settler youth marching through Palestinian areas, chanting, kill all the Arabs, burn all their villages, and having this permitted march through the Palestinian area. And as I just watched a documentary called The Settlers, and as I learn more about these extremists, I mean, there's 660,000 now settlements, and a lot of these people feel like this is their land because God gave it to them, and it's their job, it's their purpose as Jews to take over all of this land. And it's done violently against the West Bank Palestinians. And I'm wondering what your organization, if your organization is involved in conversations with this extremist, nationalistic Jewish community to try and, I don't know what you can do with people that think that way, but your involvement.
So I mentioned a little bit about, I mean, as you know, Roots, I live in the settlements. All Roots activities take place with Israelis who live in the settlements. Within the settlements, there's actually there's a fair amount of different opinions, different political opinions, different ways of living. And one of the things one of the projects of Roots is creating a counter to those more extremist voices. We do it in all kinds of ways. Some of it, like I mentioned, now it's kind of triage. It's about calling in the army to go when we're hearing about attacks going on, to be in touch with the army to go in, or try to get the police to go in. I mentioned the meeting last Friday with a major rabbi within a cluster of very extremist rabbis, but he's also a very senior rabbi, and I hope that he would issue some kind of statement for this, because the level of how things are spiraling out of control right now, and because that was going on then, but what's going on even now with the war and the emotions, the vengeance, the opportunity, it's even worse. But trying to create a counter voice within that, that's what Roots is about doing, about different values, about our values that believes in our people's belonging to this entire land, but also recognizes that the Palestinians belong to the entire land. And the larger picture, seeking a political solution that can respect both of those identities. But it's an ongoing struggle. Obviously, it's a big part of what Roots is about on the Israeli side. I mean, expressing that.
Thank you. And whatever voice and pressure that you can give for equalizing some of the water rights and, just basics like that.
That was, before this happened, that was actually one of the major programs we were about to get involved with but please God, that'll come back to.
May it return. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think I see Jade and then Zoom user. Jade?
Hi, give me just a second. Actually, it's Rivka.
Ah,
Rivka Jade. Hi.
Hi.
So my question is for Khaled. I don't know if I pronounced it right. I apologize if I butchered it. So my question is about Palestinian moderates. So I'm a dual citizen. I've lived in America and Israel, and I've been involved with various multicultural interfaith peace initiatives. And the one thing that I have noticed repeatedly is whereas there's a huge range of opinions and protests and political persuasions in the Jewish and Israeli community, there's always someone who's, far left or far right, and, there's always somebody protesting something. I don't see that with Palestinians, and I want to understand more from your perspective why that is. And I have a few other questions. You mentioned something about trust, and the other thing I've noticed is that a lot of these peace initiatives are started by Jews or Israelis and not Palestinians, and that participation is really challenging. That like a lot of times the Palestinian participants drop out, they're not taking the same amount of initiative, and so I want to understand why you think that is. And and the third question, this is, it's not meant as an attack, but, I would like you to speak to, what to the Jewish community and the Israeli community essentially feels like Arab supremacy over several thousand years. And like an unwillingness to allow us to exist under our own leadership and express our cultural or religious values. So yeah, those are my three questions.
Thank you. First of all, let me mention to you that the life in the West Bank and Gaza is not that easy. We are not living under a democracy regime or state since 1948 until now. Now the Palestinian Authority is still in the beginning. Before is the Israel military control, and we don't have the same situation in Israel, a democracy situation that you can express your feeling, your opinion. Because of this, the political life in the Palestinian side is not that strong or clear. Sometimes this party, I'm a Fatah person, and before the Palestinian Authority, Fatah is considered as a terrorist movement. Now we can see that Hamas considered as a terrorist movement. What we call the Khazit Amamit, the front,
Democratic Front.
The Democratic Front. They consider. So how we can deal in a democracy? How we can express our political opinions under such as a condition to support to support the peace and the agreement and everything. Before we at the beginning, it cannot start from political parties. It should start from the Israel side. The things and that Israel gave up to the Palestinian people, empower the Palestinian Authority, is make the political party life more strong and more easy to express or to support peace agreement. Yes, you have a peace campaign in Israel. We don't have a peace campaign in Palestine because we still in the beginning, we didn't got anything until now. We started the Oslo agreement, and they said Jericho and Gaza, I think, the beginning, and then they have to continue, and it have been stuck until now. It's stuck, and if you stand and support this peace, the people will tell you that where's the peace that you are talking about? Nothing happened. Israel can go everywhere, can arrest anyone. We still under the Israel army control in everywhere.
I'm sorry to be rude. I want to ask you another question, dovetailing off of what you're saying. So my question is, why is it Israel's responsibility for Palestinians to have a democratic leadership? Why is it not Palestinians' responsibility?
Because let's look to the 2006 when we have problems in Gaza, we have no connection between the West Bank and Gaza, where the Palestinian Authority is located, the power of the Palestinian Authority. So we cannot stop this revolution in Gaza. So Hamas took the leadership in Gaza, and the situation divide the Palestinian area to two places. While in Oslo, we talk about having a safety connection between Gaza and the West Bank, to close the people in Gaza and to ask them to be a peaceful people. It cannot work. We should give to them. I mentioned that one of the reasons that make the West Bank not so crazy and a little bit quiet or is that the value of there is a life here. There is a value of life here. When you lose the value of the life, then your life became nothing. So you lose the hope, and you can be involved in anything that also if you hurt yourself sometime. And this is what's happened in Gaza. This is what's happened in Gaza by the ideology of the Muslim brother, and the people who gave up, who have no hope, they became a very easy victim for them, and they follow what's happened, and this has caused all this catastrophe. In the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority still have a control. Although the Israel government is punished from time to time, they gave a very few benefit to the Palestinian Authority. They stopped the money that empowered the Palestinian Authority to pay the salary of the employee, and part of them they are people who protect the security and give the people to live in dignity. This is what the Palestinian Authority tried. But under this condition, it's very hard. It's very hard. The last 10 years or 15 years, the Palestinian Authority faced a lot of big challenge, bigger than their ability to solve.
So I guess my question is,
I think we do.
As a peace, in our work as a peacemaker, my power came from my Jewish partner. When I want to show to my people that there is a hope for peace, I bring my partner in Israel to show. One of the people here mentioned women wanting peace, Nashim Osot Shalom. When I've seen a demonstration that women wanting peace call, and there is more than, I think, 5,000 women participate in that demonstration, this gave me a lot of hope. So we are empower each other. We are your power as a peacemaker came from me as a Palestinian trust person who gave you the power in front of your society. The same for me. You gave me the power in front of my society, of my people, when I'm speaking about peace with Israel.
Right.
There's only, we have about 10 minutes left, and so I want to get the people who have their hands up now. I want to see people who want to have more questions to ask. You can still send in. You can send in by mail or on the chat here. But I know we've got 9 minutes left, and I'm going to give Zoom user, then Robert Hickman. Zoom user. Any shame.
Imran.
Is that me?
Yes.
All right. Shalom, brothers.
Shalom,
Welcome. Peace to you, to everyone. Brother Shaul, my question will be towards yourself. I think when someone suggested that peace maybe wouldn't be, a ceasefire wouldn't be right now, my issue with that is, because obviously they need to eliminate Hamas. and the people who committed the atrocities on the 7th of October. My issue with that is seeing a lot of different videos, whether it be on social media or different news outlets, is Hamas is today's problem. If we don't agree a ceasefire soon, there will be something else. It will be called something else, but they will stand by the same thing because Hamas just took advantage of people who, unfortunately, who are living in a really bad situation. Now other people will come, even if all of Hamas are taken out, however many of them there are, there'll be other people there who will say, look, this is what the Israeli government or the IDF did to you guys. They never want peace. We have to stand up and we have to get revenge. My big fear in watching some of these videos is that you look at these people who are traumatized. They're probably in a corner where they have no hope. We thankfully have one another to talk to, all of us guys do, and I'm so thankful for that. These people will have no hope, and I fear someone else will mop up all this, what's left over, and it could get worse. That is my fear.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the worst of all options, but it's still, I think, for many people, the question is, what is another option? I mean, one, if I say a best hope scenario for me is that if that Hamas leadership is down in the, I think what Israel right now, it owes to its citizens that they're not going to wake up the next morning and there's still going to be rockets coming in and still being attacks and that going on. So you bring up a good point. You're saying, well, even if you take out Hamas capabilities now, but if there could become some kind of reinstatement of an authority in Gaza that's committed to not letting that happen again, an Arab, if it's the Saudis, if it's who it comes from, I don't know. It's a very good, important question to ask right now. But that somebody takes responsibility for the lives of people in Gaza, that the aid dollars that have been poured in there aren't diverted towards weaponry making and tunnel building, and we find some way forward. But I think, as an Israeli, unfortunately, what happened, I think, and this goes back to Daniel or Benjamin's question, we've fallen back into a space of an us and a them, where we feel in the corner, and that's it's maybe it's a gamble. It's crazy to think that how can the death and the hate and the pain that's going to be there possibly, but I think Israelis feel stuck. What's the option that allows any guarantee to safety in the south? And that's why that's the very hard feelings in Israel. We've been living by the sword, and we're going to keep living by the sword.
My thoughts are, as the saying says, excuse the saying, in the UK where I'm from, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
You know, as such, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just find this way, I find what's going on right now, to me, it's going to create more obstacles. It's going to create, I love my Jewish brothers and sisters, and I don't just say that to yourself just to blow smoke up anyone. But, you know, I consider us to be cousins, but there are some days that I watch what's going on, and I don't hold all Israelis and all Jews responsible for it, not at all. It's the government that make these decisions and the IDF. And I get so angry, and I feel, how can I be friends? How can we do this to each other? We are cousins, you know what I mean? We're branches of the same tree. How can we do this to that? And I just fear them, all of it. I fear with the technology and the power that the IDF hold, there's got to be a different way they could have dealt with this. They've got to stop killing civilians and completely kind of like bombing, sending you these huge bombs isn't the answer. They've got to be a bit more specific. From what I'm, obviously it's all hearsay, but I hear the IDF have the best technology or the best snipers and the best kind of things in the world. You know, why can that not be put in place? Why does it have to be so kind of on such a large scale? That's my biggest concern. So I'll leave it at that and I'll let you answer.
I think people are going to fall into a narrative. I mean, I hear from friends that they're trying to take precautions, but this is, I think there's the anger there, but I just don't know how to go about it. And it becomes the question of, the big question is really say, like, how many of our soldiers do we put at risk? Are we going to lose going to take that position? And when Hamas is still choosing to embed in the civilian areas, and it's true, they said that their biggest center is underneath the hospital. What's going to be that? I think I have friends in the army saying my job is to call. We have this, my friend of ours, to call the neighborhood and tell them to get out of this neighborhood. The army's going to attack there. They're calling Palestinians they know in the villages in this area, part of the neighborhood, to say go. I think we've become really stuck here, and in it. But if there could be, I'm waiting. What's the initiative that allows? Is there a call that can demand that Hamas release hostages, put down weapons, exile themselves, and let's Gaza move on? And I'd love to see this suggestion. I'd love to see that move forward. You know,
I think, sorry, if it was done differently.
The same day that Khania said we want to negotiate for a two-state solution, the same day that Khania said that in Qatar, or in Doha, Ghazi Khamad, the Gazan spokesman, says that we're going to attack Israel again and again and again. He says, you know, this is the first, and you haven't seen the last of us. So I think that's this place where we're still back in the corner.
It's a tough one. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you that question.
I'm happy to call it back. Honestly, we can talk later also. But Robert and Sean, I think we're gonna have to close up soon.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Bob from Sacramento, California, and I have a question to ask you and your colleagues about how are you doing with all of this? Wanting to check in with you. I admire your courage in raising the roots perspective in your communities, but I was wondering, are there any safety risks that you're encountering? And how does that shape what you say and where you say it?
Great question.
Let me first, what we are doing these days is to try to help people in need. This is an emergency case that nowadays the people think about the food and the daily needing for their life. The second thing that we have, Shaul have, and I have, we have friends and people who is in a position for example, in the Israel side, we are talking with them, try to convince them to push, stop this, to convince the leader on the ground to stop this, to try to help end this war. We also try to collect messages of hope and spread it in between the people here in Israel and in Palestine, because we know that the people became very hopeless nowadays. And for example, from the religion side, we spread a video from many Palestinian Muslim imams and rabbis, Jewish rabbis, for the people, to give them a message of hope. We are trying now to have kids, Palestinian and Israel kids, to give a message to the people that we can be partner, we can be friends, and we should not be enemy, and we should stop fighting each other. As you mentioned, I don't remember your name. We are cousins. We are very close. Maybe in the Arabic culture there is a say. I will say it in Arabic: "الدم على الدم حامي." When you have argued with your brother or your close relative, you'll be more extreme, because you expect from him to care about you, and when he do an ugly thing to you, your reaction will be very extreme. And maybe this is the situation. I hope this is the situation. If it's like this, then I'm optimistic that we will pass this, and at the end the life will continue, and we will count the victims. We will cry, but we should think about the day after and what should be done, how we can treat this, how we can نعالج, to
heal.
To help this.
Bob, thank you for the question also. Yeah, I mean, it's a good time to be able to laugh at ourselves, and I can laugh at my warmongering, I can laugh at my peacemaking, having that sense of like, okay, community is important, like knowing that there is a network of people that I live with, that I work with, that we can meet in the nighttime and share. You know, one of the things we're doing, making allowing the Israelis and roots to get together and talk on Zoom, share things. We had a meeting the other night here with friends of like minds. You know, how we dealing with this. On one hand, feeling the pain and the pathos of conflict. On the other hand, having our values and our beliefs and our hopes and prayers we want to stay connected to. But it's a very surreal existence right now, just on that level. I mean, it's my wife said, like every we have Shabbat, comes every Friday night comes Shabbat. It just doesn't feel like anything happened between the last Shabbat and this Shabbat. It's this time is somehow frozen. There's no planning. There's no beyond. There's just right here. I mean, thank God for the kids who, taking care of the kids and keeping a safe space to them and being with them is a break. Working in the garden a little bit, extra time trying to get the roof closed for the winter. And then also but also the relief work, the kind of this finding places where you can do something. The work we have this, once we move to this WhatsApp group, and I'm like on the phone here a little bit now, getting a report about this settlers coming in. Let's call that, making sure people are notified. And please God, this week we're going to start. We'll start the kind of distributing the donations that have come in to start distributing the work on those packages to people, which is going to be a big project. And keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
Brother Sean.
Yes. Shaul, Khaled, thank you for this discussion. A quick question to bring it back to roots. I think we all know that people who know and trust each other don't massacre each other. And if fear is the problem, then trust is the solution. Of course, we have to take that to scale. But bringing it back to roots, what can you tell us about the durability of the connections that you have forged over recent years? And don't be afraid to say it's not all perfect, but with regard to the people who have met through your programs and whatnot, and I was just visiting you in July and witnessed the day camp myself. For these actual people in your community, what can you say about the durability of that trust? How is that being expressed these days?
It's being tried, but I think it's bend and not break. That's what we've kind of said the focus on. I think if we were to put everybody in a room and let's talk about what you're feeling right now, we'd be in a disaster. But when Marwan gave a call to Sarah this afternoon, they actually sat for coffee. When Myron called out to Yad, when Bilal said I have no medicine, all these little steps are really what I think is gonna get us through in this time. Just the real checking in on each other. And we're already kind of a staff meeting last week, kind of just kind of planning the ways how we're going to start bringing people back together. One of the thoughts we had, I think, which will be a good one, is to bring in an Israeli and a Palestinian trauma therapist to have a conversation together, and we'll just all be there in the Zoom room together, the activists, and kind of finding these ways. Our interreligious group is going to do a learning about healing in Islam and Judaism. It's a topic not about the conflict, about this, but to see each other, to remember we're all there. I think one of the dangers right now is when we don't see each other, and we don't hear each other. You're left to think that trust isn't there, that they don't care, that they're on that side. So finding those little steps, I think, which are kind of a safe space to reach out and touch somebody in that way is really critical right now. I think people are just so grateful for that call. People. I'll say I have a friend who's a kind of extremist rabbi. But he called me the other day. He says, "Shaul, like people in my town are so scared. People are really scared that the Palestinians in the next village are gonna march up the thing and slaughter us, and it's not good for anybody here. Can you send me some messages?" And I was like, "Wow." I won't say his name. I just forwarded him a bunch of WhatsApp and voice recordings of things that friends had sent me, the Palestinian friends sent me, and he shared with his community. So that's I think the triage to the damage control right now. And the packages, I think this relief work we're going on around is going to give us a real chance. That people who are Roots is, like a plug, but the donations people are giving gives Roots a chance to show up in people's lives when they're down and give them that little push. Right now it's about closing rent. A friend of mine is a Roots guy. He hasn't been paid in independent worker. He hasn't had a gig in a month, and it's so that kind of work also I think is a really great space for us to show up and step up to people and keep that connection. Jordanos?
Yes, thank you. Salam and shalom. Thank you again so much for organizing this briefing and creating this space for dialogue. I had the opportunity to visit the Roots camp just 2 months ago and really deeply appreciate the work that you all do. I'm Ethiopian American. I live in the US, and my question is for Khaled. Khaled, you talked about your long-term aspirations for peace, and I'm curious from your perspective today, what you believe is needed right now that is in the best interest of both Palestinians and Israelis. Do you support the ceasefire? Obviously, there are people all over the world that are protesting, that are taking action in support of Palestinians. And I'm curious from your perspective, what you believe is the best solution.
First of all, should stop. This ugly war should stop. I'm sure, and I think people with an experience can accept my opinion that this war will not end the history of Hamas, will not finish Hamas, for sure. It will empower them. It will give them more legitimacy, more to be hero, and the innocent people killed day and night. This should be stopped. The people who stand everywhere in this world demonstrate. I hope that this demonstration is calling for peace and not for hatred between any of us. My saying to everyone in this world, if you want to support peace between both of us, and not. Also, I am a little bit. I'm not with the. I think the stand of the United States on the level of support is more than the normal. It's the United States should not support the killing of those innocent people. After this, I think we should think seriously. I don't think, and I don't think, I don't believe that the way that Israel think that their security came through empowering their army. This is not true. None of us can have any security by standing behind the tanks and the weapon of the army. The real peace came through the relationship between the people. And on this, I am happy that the last years, many connection between Israel and Arab countries happened. And here, maybe I have, I don't accept the reaction of the Palestinian Authority. Any kind of peace between Israel and any Arab country, for me, it's placed, it's supported. I think it can lead to good things. And I think we should all support this. But the main goal should support the relationship between the Israel and the Israel Jewish and the Palestinian people here inside the country, how we can think about a real solution that gave all of us to live in dignity and security and freedom here. This is the question before the 7th of October, and this should be the main question nowadays. What should be done to have a real peace between the Palestinian and the Israel state and the Israel people and the Jewish Israel people? How we can build the trust back between. I'm optimistic. We can do it, but it's need a lot of effort. All the time, it's happened by small organization or initiative here and there. The two government, most of the power of the two states, the Palestinian and the Israel state, should be put in to build this trust and not to fight each other, not to continue cause to each other to be more weak. We should strengthen each other. We should stand with together. We should plan together how we can lead the people of the two sides in a process of reconciliation, how we can, from the educational side, how we can raise up the trust and the respect between the two sides, how Israel can take responsibility. I say it I'm clearly to the Jewish people. You spent 2,000 years in Galut, in different places in the world. You have different culture from the Middle East. how you can bring back how you can bring yourself back to your real culture of the Middle East. You are part of the Middle East. How you can make the Arabic language is an important element, and no one care about this. Individually, I've seen Jewish people here and there, they care to study this language. It should be taught in the schools, because the main language in the Middle East is the Arabic language. I know that the Jewish language is a holy language and should develop it and should use it. But in the Middle East also, for me, if I have the decision, I will teach the Hebrew language in the schools, in the Palestinian school from now. Why not to have the Arabic language teaching at school everywhere, to understand the culture, to make the communication between the Jewish Israel people and the Arab countries around better. This will bring the security, not the power of the army and and
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Hazel? Hi. Oh, it's on mute still. Okay. And I think we're going to say that Grace is going to ask the last question, because we always have Grace after meals. But Hazel, we can't hear you yet.
We have another 2 minutes.
Hazel,
I will leave.
More of an observation really than a question. And you were talking about having a trauma therapist come to help you as a group, which is fantastic. I'm not Jewish, and to an outsider, I mean, I'm not Jewish. I don't feel in the same way as Jews do worldwide the awfulness of the massacre. But to me, it feels as if the response is a trauma response, and it's about feeling unsafe, which I know is something that Jews have felt for generations, and it's all a Holocaust thing. But in fact, the massacre happened because the borders were not secure. If the borders were secure, the situation would have been just the same as before. Occasional rockets intercepted largely by the Iron Dome. You know, I wonder, it's something about how to get Jews who feel so unsafe to get a bit of realistic perspective on this, because as an outsider, I'm just horrified by what's happening in Gaza. It feels revengeful. It feels out of proportion. I feel for both sides, really. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Grace,
Shaul, Hanan, all our guests here. I'm sorry I have to leave because I have another meeting. After 1 minute, I have a call meeting. Okay, so
yeah, Grace, Grace.
Last, okay, the last.
It's still on mute. It's still on mute, though. We don't hear you.
Okay. I have a lot of things running through my head, and one of the things that I think is the top on my list is just that in the understanding of cousins, that what we're seeing worldwide is a lot of hate toward Semitic people as a whole, not just Jews, not just Arabs, but like this fomenting on both sides. And it seems like I'm wondering if there could be more louder declarations of support for family, because that's how I look at it, within Israel, because I feel like the world needs to know that this relation exists, and it feels very scary right now. I've seen a lot of like Hitler will rise again comments worldwide. You know, we saw in the protests in Australia, like gas the Jews. Like these things are quite loud on the world stage. It feels much bigger than just what's going on there, and I feel like you guys have the most strength to be able to speak peace into a world that doesn't understand.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah,
Thank you, Grace. We
it
are
sounds terrifying across the world. Like it was, I know, and I hear from friends and some family. It sounds absolutely horrifying, and I think that's the great fear. I don't want to go on a down note here, but that real face. Wow, is humanity caring? Do we do we edge off the precipice? I heard Mayim Bialik speak about the anti-Semitism in the States. Is anybody going to stand up for us? And it's a really existential fear inside. And I think you're right. It's the partnership. I know it's the question, and it's like I think Rivka Jada is like, how do we build that partnership? How does it become? Can we get over it? You know, where this is what we want our religions to be seen as standing for in the world. So I do think what we normally say, people like it's in the quiet times when it's not as fervent. It's just we need to be building maybe a little bit what it's about doing the work when it's quieter. Right now it's terrifying, and I pray we're safe. I pray you're safe. But we need to be doing a lot more work on moving things into some new paradigms. You know, I think that stands at the core. But Roots' message is that we've been denying each other's identities on such a core level. That we've you know, this violence is a reflection of that total denial, unable to see each other's belonging, and to reach that place of family is we've got a long way to go in many ways, but it's there. You know, it's something we need to work, we need to be dedicated to. I just want to say, anybody on the call who wants to reach out, I know we didn't. Obviously, there's always time, and it's ending. But anybody's interested in following up, I saw so Kylie, you had. I'd love to get that email about the trauma worker people. Please send me. I'm putting up my emails there in the chat. We're gonna have to close down now. But thank you everybody for coming and tuning in. And I think we'll be doing another one of these in probably another 2 weeks. Just kind of following up and reporting. There's our Facebook page there, and really feel free to reach out or follow up and to share. Khaled, good night, everybody. And just maybe we'll also just end with a little prayer for a world that's a lot of prayer.
Thank you. Shukran. Shukran.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Toda Rabba.
Aleichem shalom.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Sue and Mark. Goodbye, Alev.
Thank you.
Gesund.
Sei gesund, sei gebencht, Jesse.
Bye, Shaul.
Thank you, Shaul.
Bye, John. Oh, it's good to see you, everybody here. We go to gallery view again. Soak up the light.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
Thank you. Shalom, Shaul.
Shalom uvracha.
Salam, Khaled.
Shalom. Shalom b'cherech, shalom b'benotaych. Bye. Good night. Taylor Weiner. Taylor.
תודה גם ליהודית פרומן.
יפה.
ממש.
כן.
האמיצה והחכמה.
ממש. השכנה שלי, מעבר לשביל פה עכשיו.
אפשר לה חיבוק גדול ממני.
מי זאת? יעל?
יעל מצרפת.
אוקיי. בשמחה.
Thank you.
וואי, השם ישמור אותנו, ישמור אותנו כולנו.
אמן.
Khaled, hi to Boulder, Colorado. Hi, Shelley, the neighbor. Good night.